We've all heard the term. Heck, there's a song written about it. Boys don't cry. A culture telling our boys and men to man up. But it's having a significantly detrimental, deadly effect in some cases. We want to welcome Leyla Gulen, author, TEDx speaker, and licensed marriage and family therapist. Thank you for joining us.
So good to be here. Thank you.
So yeah, we teach our boys, don't cry, man up, be tough. What is the old boy code versus the new boy code?
Well, Layla, boys are under a lot of pressure to be a man or to act like a real man. And we don't really have a good working definition of what that means. And there's mixed messages out there. So the old boy code is boys will be boys, boys don't cry, act like a man. And I'm calling for the new boy code, which is boys will be respectful and responsible for their actions.
Yeah.
Boys cry, and that's okay. Act like a human, be kind, and be yourself.
Right. And I think that kindness piece is extremely important. I want to jump to empathy. And I think that kind of is across the board for everyone. However, there is an empathetic characteristic that is often missing in our young boys. So how do they go about developing that muscle? Because I think that helps them better relate to the world around them.
Absolutely. Empathy, being able to understand your own feelings and emotions will help you be able to empathize better with others. And one way that we can do that is by teaching boys emotional management skills. So, empathy, imagining himself in the other person's shoes, self-esteem, whether he bakes cakes or plays football, the more support we give him, the better he'll be able to handle competition and criticism. And then communicate, not isolate, and find his safe spaces, whether that's with friends, parents, best friends' parents, coaches, or counselors.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you embrace those emotions? You know, we don't want to create a culture, and forgive me if this sounds insensitive, you know, this is not aimed at any particular situation, but we don't want to create a world of a bunch of crybabies, which I think, you know, we tend to find ourselves in that reality from time to time, but there is a way of embracing emotions, yet handling them with a level head.
Right. And I think, for boys, for girls, they're allowed to have their emotions more and they just tend to socialize and support each other more. And the term crybaby or mama's boy or sissy, I really challenge parents to look at that because if they're withholding affection from their little boys because they think that will make them weak, or if their little boy starts to cry and they shoot him a dirty look, it's like, what's that about?
Yeah.
Are you afraid of them being seen as weak or a sissy? And if that's the case, my challenge is that little boys have the same emotional capacity as little girls, and it's a strength, not a weakness. And Layla, you kind of hit on it earlier. We look at boys, we tend to rate boys more on performance versus character. So if they're academically strong, athletically strong, we really put a lot of emphasis there. But what about emotional intelligence? What about lifting boys up for showing strong character, for being kind, for being honest, for being courageous?
I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And for people who want to learn more about your work, where should they go?
They should go to my website, which is letboysbekidsfirst.com. They can find out where to buy my book. They can watch my TED Talk, and my social media handles are there.
Fantastic. Leyla Gulen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Layla. Take
We'll be
care.
back. You too. We'll be back in 2 minutes.